So hey, what's going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario. I know we're doing a little bit of a different format here. This is actually the format that normally Devin or Paranoid Coder and I use for mod chat, but I said, you know what? I got a friend over here. We're going to be doing it this way, and who do I got with me?
What's up, everybody? It's been a while, maybe.
It's been a while. Sean, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome. And Sean, what are we doing here today? What are we talking about with the people here?
Let's see. You invited me over, and it's kind of one of my childhood things. Genesis. The Sega Genesis and the Sega CD.
Yes.
I forget what this thing is called.
It's all good.
But
yeah, but it's not this thing.
It's not this thing. Yeah.
No. It's this thing right here that we have kind of just hiding behind it. This right here is the Mega SG from Analogue. And the way I had framed this to Sean, so I didn't know until we played Coffee Crisis, which I think that was one of the last videos you were in. Yeah, I didn't know until we played Coffee Crisis that, Sean, you have such an affinity for the Genesis, don't you?
The Genesis was one of my first systems, and I really like that system. I put a lot of time into Altered Beast.
It's a good choice. Man, we didn't even try that on this.
Hey, I'm cool with it. That game gave me a lot of trouble as a kid.
We can try it afterwards. Yeah. Anyways, this is not going to be, a super in-depth review, I'd say, by any means. This is kind of just going to be our kind of off-the-wall thoughts. We have some notes here and just our impressions over the Analogue Mega SG. So in case you do not know, this is a clone Sega Genesis. This is not at all officially endorsed by Sega, but it's also not a Sega Genesis or NOC, Nintendo on a chip type system. Mm-hmm. This is actually all just rebuilt for the system itself using pretty much modern, kind of off-the-wall, off-the-shelf FPGA parts. Which
is still pretty cool. So.
It is, absolutely. So this is essentially, the best way I can sum it up is, if the Sega Genesis was released in 2019, this would be it right here.
100%.
You think so?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Makes me happy, yeah. So kind of just going right off the bat here, this does work on... I just love I love all the compatibility on this. Mm. This works with the original Sega Genesis controllers.
Yep.
Even though we're using these little wireless ones from 8-Bit Do, which I do want to talk about these because these are great. You were talking about the Sega CD, so check this out. This thing also has an expansion slot, and you can actually slot it into the Sega CD right here, the Model 1 or the Model 2 Sega CD.
Awesome.
Yes. You also have, of course, full Mega Drive, Sega Genesis backwards compatibility, full Sega CD compatibility, and I guess I misused that. Backwards compatibility would technically be with the Sega Master System. So just like the Sega Genesis here, our pal, the Sega Genesis, is completely backwards compatible with the Master System, as is this thing right here. In fact, out of all of the Genesis lineups of hardware here, the only piece that doesn't work with this would be the 32X, which, funny enough, we have displayed right here. But it doesn't work on this, unfortunately. So that's the thing. Out of the box here, and with a little bit of tinkering, but I guess really out of the box when you purchase this, you're able to use this with Mega Drive, Genesis, Sega Master System, and Sega CD.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the setup looked really easy when you showed it to me, so, I mean...
Yes. Yeah. No, you just... Even if I can kind of, oddly hook it up right here. I'll see if I can. So you pretty much just... I'll take that, disconnect it real quick. Sean, yeah, go ahead, hold on.
I gotcha.
And it comes with this little spacer right here. This is one of the things it comes with. So if you're using, a Model 2 like I am, you can simply just take this, unplug that. Let's see.
See if he pops in nice and good.
Kinda, sorta.
Wow, that spacer's actually perfect.
Yeah, but point is, once you plug it in, it works well enough. So that's about it with that. Now, the cool thing is, too, this just uses micro USB for power. It comes with the power supply, it comes with the HDMI cable, because this is HDMI. So one thing you all might want to know, for anybody who's actually a purist, I just saw this now, if you're wanting to use, let's say, component or RGB SCART or even a composite, mind you really wants to go back in time, you're going to have to get some type of HDMI to analog adapter, unfortunately. Because this thing, for me, it works out pretty well. It is HDMI, and that's what I'm going to use. But for some people, I just realized, wait, they might want to use it on, a CRT or something.
Yeah, something to go way back.
Exactly. Yeah.
So...
So that's pretty much kind of the rundown of the system. Now, kind of just talking about this here, I paid for this with my own money. This is about $200. It's $100. Yeah.
I don't think I actually learned that until today.
Okay, so I like that we have, the instant reaction right here. It's $189. That's before shipping or anything else. Shipping when I bought it from Analogue was another $20-$30 or so. And then these controllers you can get off Amazon pretty easily, but they're about $25 a piece, these wireless ones. So really, just to get started before you even get any games, you would have to put, if you're wanting to get, let's say, 2 wireless controllers and this thing shipped to you, about $250 in.
So like a little bit cheaper than like a modern system, maybe like a last generation system.
Yeah. Now, if you're really wanting, I guess with that barrier to entry, what I'm trying to say here is this is not cheap enough for someone to just make an instantaneous purchase.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like a $30-$40 Sega Genesis clones you find at Walgreens, which I have picked up on a whim before.
Those look good too, I'm just saying.
I mean, like, look good or play good, you mean? Because
never played them.
Oh, no, you don't want to play them.
Ooh.
The sound's bad, the video's not the best, there's just all these little issues.
Oh, man.
So that's the thing, that's the downside. If you're not really wanting to pay all that much into it, and also if you're just a person who wants to use an emulator, this is not going to be for you. However, if you are wanting to use original hardware, you might even be wondering, hey, you already have all the original hardware right here. Why won't you just use that? Well, one, I want to give this a shot, but two, for anybody who's really getting into this, if you ever try and hook up one of these older systems to a modern display using RF or even composite would probably be one of the better ones you can get here. But generally, it's not going to look good at all.
No.
The best way you're going to get something good out of it, which we had played before. Mm-hmm. We played using, I believe it was this system here, when we played Coffee Crisis. When we had used that, we were actually playing with a original Sega Genesis console with an actual cartridge. We had used RGB SCART output on there, which is essentially the best you're able to get out of these. But you also have to adapt it. So we also used a RGB SCART to HDMI adapter and upscaler, which is my FrameMeister. None of that I talked about, aside from maybe the game and the system, are cheap. I use a FrameMeister, and that is about a $400 piece of hardware. And it doesn't play any games by itself. That is simply to take any kind of input, really, like S-Video, RGB SCART, JP21, what is the other one? Composite, taking anything like that, and bumping it up and upscaling it to nice 1080p 60 HDMI.
Dang.
Yeah. So if you're wanting to play, let's say, a whole myriad of systems, then and you're wanting to play on original hardware, that might be worth it to you. But if you're only really focused on Sega Genesis, I'd recommend really looking into this product here.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, what have been your thoughts on it so far? I know I've kind of been rambling and such for a bit, but Sean, I'd like to know your thoughts. I can kind of bounce this off of you.
I mean, more or less, I pretty much agree 100% with what you're saying here. I don't have, too much experience with owning this whole array. I only owned ever, just the Genesis before, but it's super cool. Finally, I knew about it, and it's super cool seeing it all together. But it's really nice just, seeing something modern like that, and like, at least based off of what we've played over like a few hours. I mean, yeah, the hardware upgrade with HDMI change, it's great.
It is.
It's really cool. It lets you play those, retro games that you really like at that higher quality, and you get to, change it up a little bit, like, get rid of some of the I guess not lag, but it just looks cleaner.
Yeah, really. It looks cleaner. I mean, it feels responsive and all that as well, too. And I have said what I absolutely love about this system is that, to me, it is the perfect blend between retro and modernization.
100%.
Because obviously we're playing games from like the early 90s and such on here, but then you're able to, obviously just hook this up right out of the box, play everything through HDMI just fine, and then look, the original compatibility. Like, here's the thing, I will acknowledge, I think this looks a little bit silly.
A little
combination. Bit. I don't like how this looks. I don't like the aesthetic of this. However, I cannot deny that it is amazing that I am able to take this and hook it up to original Sega CD hardware with no issue.
Yeah, zero issue. And it looks weird.
We played tons of Sega CD games on here, and they worked great.
They're awesome. Like, it definitely doesn't look as cool as this sitting there, but
no.
Like, hey, it's still cool.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, no, I've very much enjoyed it. There's tons of options on it as well too, which we barely even really scratched the surface on. So even a lot of the issues, for example, like frame pacing, frame rate, any type of lag, inputs delay, especially sound, like any type of Nintendo on a chip type of system, they always have that bad sound. And Genesis emulation is quite good, but I will say I'm one of those people, if you know me through the channel, I like to play on the original hardware when I can. I love taking the original hardware and absolutely maximizing that. And I'll say that if you're wanting to play on original hardware, yes, this is technically not original hardware. But if you're wanting to play native, this right here, to me, is the best way of doing it.
It is so close.
It's amazing.
So close.
So close to like original, you're saying, or what? Like, I would say it surpasses it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you get that nostalgia feeling of playing on the Genesis, but it's like if you play like tons of games now, it's like you don't feel that weird disparity of it feels really dated or something like that. Like it's just natural. Almost.
If you ever, like, I don't know, play an emulated build of a Sega Genesis game and it's obvious that it's an emulator, or you're not playing with the original controller, or maybe even the emulator is just not all that good. I know Sega has done several re-releases and they can just botch their emulators and such. And you're not playing on any, like, at-games type trash either.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
For sure. But yeah, no, kind of talking about this here, we got some notes. I kind of just wanted to go over those. And you were with me when I set this up initially.
Oh, yeah.
And the console setup was just an absolute breeze.
Yeah. It was so quick. I think, we sat down and you're like, so here's the thing. And then you walked over and not even like 2 minutes later, you're like, all right, here's a controller.
Yeah, and I think most of those 2 minutes were because I was hooking it up to a capture card and such. And
then
then I had to
sync extra.
And then I had to sync up these controllers to it as well too.
Yeah, it was super quick and it looked really easy.
There wasn't anything super complex on there. I think for me, the only thing that I was running into issues with was when I was changing the settings, playing around with them, because I was playing around with the settings quite a bit. I couldn't, for some reason, it just didn't cross my mind. There was an actual save option for this options. I kept missing it. So when I finally hit it, it was great, and that was a blessing, because I will say maybe the only thing I don't like about this system, aside from I've said this aesthetic's kind of silly, maybe the only thing I don't like about this system is the stock font is truly terrible.
Oh my God. I didn't actually see it until recently, because Danny changed it before I got to see like the startup and everything, but he showed it to me and it just looks terrible.
It's so bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah, and I was like, I remember when I wasn't getting the settings to change, I was even like, man, is this going to like ruin my enjoyment of the system? Just looking at this disgusting font here. But thankfully, you can tweak that, and there's even ways that you can load in your own fonts and all that, because if anybody who has not seen this by now, but you're now seeing it, you can actually load up a SD card on the side. So there's a few little fun things that you can do with that, which we're going to talk about as well, too. Yeah.
I mean, the default fonts are still good, the one that you set up on there.
Once you tweak it and all that. Yeah. What I did was I used the alternate font, and then I did mixed case, and it looks great that way, to me at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that stock one is just,
yeah.
It just looks like a bunch of squiggles all over the place. It's horrible.
It almost hurts your eyes.
It does. It hurts my eyes. Yeah. Not even almost. It does hurt my eyes.
Then you got to try to bold it, and then it really hurts your eyes.
Yeah, that's bad. These controllers, though.
Yeah. Those controllers, those feel fantastic.
Yes. These are, like, using these, I don't even want to go back to the original Sega Genesis controllers. These are some awesome, again, you have to purchase these separately, but they're really pushed by Analogue right here. These are by 8-Bit Dough, and these, again, they're about $25 a piece. I have to say, though, they also work on original hardware, because there's no Bluetooth components or any type of adapters built into this system.
Yeah.
It's actually all through these dongles right here, and these dongles will connect to anything that has a 9-pin port.
That's super cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you can take this and plug it into, like right here, you can plug it into the Sega Genesis itself, and there you got a wireless controller working on a Sega Genesis.
That's super cool.
But these are so nice that I don't even want to go back to the original Sega Genesis controllers. And they have built-in batteries too. It's all charged through micro USB, so you're all good to go on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I felt like these were, because we had played the one game I feel like we had the most experience with when we did kind of a back and forth comparison was Coffee Crisis.
Yeah.
And I remember we talked about this, and even though we were using the wireless controllers, like it felt like on the system it was almost just more responsive.
Yeah. I think it has to do with like how smooth these button presses are compared to like the original system, because at least for me I love the original Genesis controller.
Sure.
Because I didn't like the
don't
NES
even
controller
know
because there was
how this
a
is hooking up
block, but I kind of
you're talking because it was like a rectangle.
Yeah,
The original
I hated
NES controller, it was not
Yeah.
ergonomically friendly.
Yeah.
They didn't master that until the Sega, the Super Nintendo.
Then I
It was more
inherited
bone-shaped.
my Genesis from my older siblings, and I love this controller, except it was a little jagged to me. Like the original ones, you know what I kind of mean?
Are you
they're
talking about the
flatter.
one, the 3-button one?
Yeah, the 3-button one.
Yeah, it was just too curvaceous almost.
Yeah, it's curvaceous, and it actually kind of hurt my hand.
Really?
Yeah. But I don't know. But these feel really good. The buttons are really smooth. The D-pad, it's soft, but it's like responsive. It's great.
Yeah, so with these controllers, I can say even if you're watching this and you're just going to say, you know what, I'm just going to play it on original hardware, because there's been several people who I've talked with, and they're like, this piece of tech looks real cool, but I think I'm just going to stick to my Sega Genesis and use my upscale, or whether it be an OSSC or FrameMeister or what have you. I'm telling you, hey man, even if you want to stick to the original hardware, you want to pass on this, that's totally fine. But you should definitely get one of these wireless controllers. They're so
100%
nice.
worth it.
They are so nice.
Yeah.
Love
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, one other thing we kind of went a little back and forth on was when we started getting into the games. I kind of want to talk about, all the stuff that we were playing here. Maybe not like everything, but a good amount of the games that we were playing. First of all, Scanlines.
Yeah.
Sean, what's your thoughts on that?
I would say we 90% agreed that we hated the Scanlines for almost every single game we played on. We tried on a couple of them, and like it was really ugly on Sonic. It was really ugly on that one where we were like going through the space zone that gave you a
Are
seizure.
you talking about Space Harrier?
Yeah, Space
Okay,
Harrier.
Space Harrier 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Space Harrier 2. That one, like, ugh. That one was bad. But I guess one of the games that we're going to touch on is Ultra Core. That game, I think, personally, looked better with the scan lines.
And I'm going to disagree with you on that. Now, I myself, you got to realize, and there's probably going to be some people that are upset, when I'm trying to pull the best signal I can out of these systems, I also don't want scan lines on them. Like on my emulators, on a FrameMeister, on any of that, now including, the Analogue here, I don't enable scan lines because I want to get the cleanest signal I can. And I know some people say, oh, well, it just doesn't look complete or it doesn't look right without scan lines. But I just want to get that clean image and all that as well. And I think part of that has to do with me playing on emulators as I was growing up and playing, some of these games, because I played them on original hardware, but I also played them, like on a PSP, for example, or on the original Xbox or something through an emulator. And many times more, I was actually doing that. So now kind of coming back to the original hardware, I want to pull that experience out of that, and part of it is just having that clean signal, which includes not having to scan lines.
I gotcha.
I'm more of a person, if I want to play with scan lines, I'm going to play on a CRT, and I don't own a CRT because those things are heavy.
They're so heavy.
Yeah.
And that's, like, I completely get that, and I 100% agree with all the games except for Ultra Core. Sure. Just because the nature of Ultra Core, because there was, an unfinished game that someone finished, and I think the textures to me were just not fully there. And when you add the scan lines in, it kind of added that kind of retro feel.
I got you. So you were kind of almost there on that. So for anyone that doesn't know, Ultra Core is actually out of the box. You get a free game with the system. You get Ultra Core, which is installed on the system. And this is a game that apparently the story goes, it was created by DICE back in the 90s, and for whatever reason, it was almost completed, and then it was canceled, and then Analogue ended up purchasing the rights to it and the source code, and ended up recovering it off of they just barely recovered it off of a old hard drive, and they were able to make whatever tweaks they needed. They finished the game to whatever they liked, and then they published it through the Mega SG here.
Yeah.
So you're getting a really good unreleased game on here for the first time. It comes built in. It's super tough.
It's rough.
It's super tough.
Yeah.
It is super tough. It looks real cool, and this is one of those games, though, it really, you can tell, pushes the system to its limits.
100%.
Because some of the animations and stuff I was seeing are like things that you would see on any of those like tech demos that were done by, you know, scene groups and competitions and all that for the Sega Genesis.
I 100% agree with that too. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, there's so much happening on the screen, and it's not like, you know, they're phasing things out like how they used to do with old video games where, you know, they covered certain things up just to make sure that the hardware can handle what's happening on the screen.
You're talking about like on like some games where like Sonic, for example, if you play that on an emulator without any of the overscanning, you're like seeing the map kind of load in on the sides.
Yeah, like stuff like that. Like you could tell that game was like loading very like new aged like loading.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that game, it's a rough game. It's what?
Rough as in it's tough, not rough as in it's hard to play.
I love it. It was super fun. It's like Contra and, you know, like a Metroidvania kind of game. That's really what it is. I don't think I got that far in it.
You got a lot farther the second time.
Yeah, I definitely got further the second time. I actually got guns.
And then you got further than me anyway. So those are just not my types of games, but I wanted to see how Sean was at it too. Yeah. So no, if you're looking for something tough and you want something that's really going to push the Genesis to its limits, where you could see what it could really do, the game that's on here is a great demonstration.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something super fun too. So I mean, that's almost worth it.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Now, Sean, the other game that, you know, I'd kind of briefly touched up on here where we were talking about this, Coffee Crisis.
I really enjoyed
this. This was
game.
fun getting back into this. And again, because of the responses, it felt even better playing on this system.
100%.
Now, this is also one of those, too, because I have a good amount of footage that we recorded on the original system. And on here, I could actually do a bit more of a comparison as well, too, which would be nice for all the people at home who are checking this out. But it plays great. It looks great on there.
Great.
Yeah.
The sounds are fantastic.
Still fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, the controls are so smooth with it. I mean, playing on both, because I think the first time we played, you know, with a wired controller.
Yes. We played on all original stuff.
All original stuff with the game, and it played great then. Yeah. And then, you know, now we play it on this system with the wireless controllers. Just feels even better. It looks better. Everything is just better.
Everything's way much more better.
Way much more better.
Yeah, so no, I can absolutely say that was a great one here. Now, when we're getting kind of into some of the murkier territory, I did want to bring this up. So, Sean, you already know I like to modify things on this channel, all that fun stuff. So another thing with this SD card right here is you can use the SD card to update the firmware on the Analogue Mega SG here.
Whoa.
Now, that's really important because Analogue is thankfully a company that really cares about their products. And if there's a valid issue with their software or their hardware and you bring it up to them, they will look into it and they could fix it pretty easily through a update.
Wow.
And then that's pretty simple. You take a micro SD card or a SD card here. I believe you just have to format it to FAT32, but you literally nothing else on there. You just drag and drop the firmware file over, and you can only have that. You plug it into the Mega SG, you turn it on, and it ends up flashing for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then turns off. And then once it's done, you take the card out, delete the firmware update off of it, and it's already updated on your system. That's it. And apparently, from what I've seen as well, too, from some people who have worked on this, which I'm about to get into, it's apparently brick-proof as well.
Whoa.
So, allegedly, now I haven't tested this, but allegedly, you can't brick the system through a firmware update. And even if you do, it's completely recoverable. So you don't truly hard brick it. I haven't tested this, but that's what I've seen on that.
That's actually kind of impressive. That's kind of cool, too.
Yeah.
So
nice failsafe.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I'm really harping on this quite a bit is because I ended up using a jailbroken firmware. So this is running, I believe it's 4.3, I want to say. And shortly after this was released to the public, there was a jailbreak which is really just the same as the stock firmware, except it allows you to load ROMs off of your SD card. So you can load ColecoVision, Sega Genesis, Mega Drive, of course, is in there, Sega SG-1000, Sega Master System, and the only thing is you cannot load ISOs or games for the Sega CD. However, you can load up different BIOS from the Sega CD. So this is like a American NTSCU Sega CD The Sega CD has no copy protection, but it has region protection.
Yeah.
So you could actually use the jailbroken firmware to load up a Japanese BIOS and then boot up into your Sega CD and then play Japanese games through that.
Wow. Holy crap.
Now, that's really cool, but unfortunately, I never got that feature to work with me.
Really?
It just didn't successfully work. I was even able to load into different BIOS, but I couldn't get games to boot on them.
Oh.
So there's some of this stuff here I'm going to very clearly annotate what was jailbreak and what wasn't, because the actual system itself worked just fine. And I think any quirks I might have been running into were really due to any type of jailbreak type stuff.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So aside from that, that was about the only quirk there for the Sega CD. For the Genesis, this is what I wanted to bring up at least. I did want to try Virtual Racing, and this is the only game I noticed, because we played several games off the SD card just because it was so much easier than grabbing the cartridges and all that. I have many cartridge-based games, but if I could just load them off the SD card, it's convenient.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, they're there.
They're there.
It's like,
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah. Now, this was one of those games. This right here is Virtual Racing, and this is a very trippy game.
It's super trippy.
It is. But it is really cool because it is 3D, true 3D on the Sega Genesis.
Yep.
Now, as you can see, I own this, and you can surprisingly pick this up for pretty cheap. Like, I think I paid $10 for this, and I just want to highlight this because it's complete in box, $10, right? Like a year or two ago, I got this. Sean, this game retailed for like $100 when it came out.
What?
Because of all the extra 3D chips that were in here.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I
that makes
think
sense.
that might have something to do with this. Virtual Racing, I noticed the ROM that I have is the only game from the SD card which failed to load. Anytime we loaded it, it was just a black screen. That is the only game we could not get to load. So we pulled out the cartridge for it, and it worked just fine.
Yeah, I mean, we tried a bunch of random games too, like just to test it out, and yeah, that's the only one that actually wouldn't pull up.
And I'm going to blame it on the special special chips that the cartridge does need, which are just not going to be available in the core. And for that, I'm not going to put any blame on Analogue, because that is just a alternate way of loading up the game that I'm using with a alternate version of their firmware. But playing it as intended from the cartridge itself, it worked just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was smooth. The controls were smooth. Everything. It just worked fine.
Exactly. Yeah. So there were several other games that we kind of ran through as well, too.
There are
I know
plenty.
Space Harrier 2, what did you think of this show?
Oh, man. Space Harrier 2. I've never even heard of this game before until you started it up and started playing it in front of me. And I had to try it. It was super trippy. Like,
a lot better than the first one, because we did try that on the Sega Master System as well, too.
Yeah.
And the first one was trippy, and it's impressive that was an 8-bit. But yeah, this one is even more trippy. I just love that aesthetic, though.
Yeah, it's just super crazy. It's like, I can't really tell if some of the models are like 3D or not and stuff like that. But it's kind of like a really pretty game. It's like art flowing into your face.
I love it. Yeah, I just love that aesthetic, that Genesis aesthetic so much. Yeah. There was a Street Rage 2, which we put a good amount of time into as well.
I like those beat-em-up games.
Now, I'm trying to remember, why did you choose 2?
Was
there any reason for that we chose Street Rage 2?
Because I think there was like 3 of them, right?
Yes.
And I think I just picked 2.
Okay.
Meet in the middle.
We picked 2 because we picked 2.
Yeah, why not? But it was super fun,
Yeah.
I didn't see anything wrong with it, and it looked super fresh. Like, it looked clean.
For sure.
So
yeah, now I remember the first night we were testing this, we started getting into the Sega CD quite a bit, because I was most excited about this compatibility, just this this unholy matrimony, right here, or holy matrimony, however you're going to call it. Yeah, and I know, seeing from other footage, reviews, and all that, the FMV stuff just does not hold up, and we got to see that firsthand. Well, one of the first games we played was Sonic CD.
Ooh.
Now, aside from the FMVs on that just looked and sounded just so crisp and vivid. It was so nice.
It was super nice. Like, a lot of the sounds and stuff actually were super improved. All the backgrounds and stuff actually looked like high quality. It almost kind of it gave, what is it, Sonic Generations kind of feel. Like, that's what it kind of looked like.
You mean Sonic Mania?
Sonic Mania.
Yeah, because I was going to say Generations was still the 3D, 2D one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It kind of, if no one told me, I would have been like, that's Sonic Mania, right?
It's like, nope, that's Sonic CD.
Yeah.
The one that people seem to forget about.
Yeah, all
but
the
it's
time.
real good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a real good one.
Oh, yeah.
Now, one game that I had never played this before, and thankfully I was able to borrow it from a friend, so thank you to you know who you are. But Snatcher, I had never played this, and he had said, hey, if you haven't played this on Sega CD before, you gotta play it.
Yes.
Now, Sean, you had some thoughts on this, and we tried it out.
Honestly, I think out of all the games we tried out, that was my favorite. I've never heard of it, never played it before. It's a game by Hideo Kojima, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, one of his like earlier games or whatever. And my God, it was what? Like kind of like a detective story with like robots and like androids and stuff.
Yeah, very Blade Runner like.
Yeah, kind of like Blade Runner like. But it's like Kojima traveled from the traveled to the future and then came back to the past. And he's like trying to make, kind of like Shovel Knight games where it's like someone now is trying to make a game for like the 90s, something kind of like that. Like all the dialogue, like there was actual voiced over dialogue in it.
It looked so good.
Yeah, it was just clean. All the like transitions in between scenes, they seemed really high tech for when the game came out. And like, the game had a bunch of different options. So it's like that game had a lot of storage or something. Like, I don't know what they were doing.
Because it was from a Sega CD. It was on a CD. So they had, let's say, I don't know, because they didn't have the 700 megs we have now.
Yeah.
But they had 500, 600 megabytes to work with.
Yeah. So. But I mean, maybe 20, 30 minutes of playing that game. But I mean, it just looked good. All the cutscenes were cool. It just felt like a modern game's take on a 90s game.
Yeah, I remember your specific words were, this is what a game looks like now, made by someone trying to make an old school 90s game.
Yeah. Like
just that hit the nail on the head.
If Danny just pulled up that game and he was just like, hey, play this, I would have been like, who made this recently? This is a cool game. I would like to pick it up now.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, I'm thinking of like, I haven't played this one yet, mind you, but it kind of looks like, almost if you've seen the visual novel Valhalla. Yeah, it kind of like looks like that, where I can show you that. And I'm sure like if I showed those to you and you were blind on it, and I said, hey, these both came out this year, you would believe it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
like,
they're doing this is an old school retro type thing. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one series we spent a lot of time with, and it wouldn't be, you would think it'd be Sonic since we're working on the Genesis stuff here. But no, we played a lot of Mortal Kombat on this.
We played a lot of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. So we did get to try out, we tried first of all Mortal Kombat CD. And I remember with that,
the loading on it was just
it was bad. It was bad.
It was really bad.
I could totally see why people at the time, like back in the early 90s, were saying, oh, cartridges are better because of Mortal Kombat here. This is the reason why. I talked with someone before who said that specifically he didn't think the PlayStation was that good because he went over to a friend's house. They had Mortal Kombat on the PlayStation. I think it was like Mortal Kombat 3, for example. And anytime like a fatality or something big was happening, game would stop. Grr, grr, you'd hear the lasers and all that.
That's insane. Yeah.
Just moving. Yeah.
Because, I mean, we were like just to load into some of the battles. It was long load times. Like 10, 15 seconds of just now loading.
Yep. It was bad.
I mean, and going back a little bit too, talking about, the videos in some of these games, the video on this game was bad.
I think that was the worst one we saw.
It was like 40p.
40?
Yeah.
Not even 240, 40.
Yeah,
40.
40.
Everyone, that's what we're talking about.
Like, everything was so pixelated, I thought there was maybe 3 or 4 pixels on the screen, and they were just kind of rubbing
pretty
against
close.
each other.
That's one thing, not even with the Genesis, but that's one thing I do notice when I'm going back and playing games. Like, for example, on the original Xbox, where a menu looks real nice and the gameplay looks real nice, and then you let it go into track mode, and the demo is like a super compressed video file that's streamed off the disc. It's like, oh, this looks horrible now. This didn't age well at all.
No.
Yeah.
Like, if you compared that one with the Sonic game, the Sonic's game looked like a masterpiece.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like Sonic CD probably has some of the best looking FMVs on the Sega CD library.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. but that was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Mortal Kombat 2 and 3, you got into these ones.
I got into these ones. I never played Mortal Kombat as a kid.
They're hard.
They're hard.
They're hard.
I think we said
I forgot how hard they were.
We said it to what? Very easy and just getting destroyed.
Yeah. No shame to that for
Yeah.
me. Like, if anyone's making fun of me, it's like, look, I'm bad at fighting games, but my God.
Like,
you set those things to very easy. They're making fun of you. They're not easy.
They're
at all.
not easy.
Yeah.
I kept telling Danny, I was like, you got to give me a little bit more time. I'm going to learn this. I swear I'll learn this.
You did. You started picking it up.
I picked it up. Then I pretty much rage quit at one of the points.
Yes.
I think I got grabbed like 30 times by an NPC. So,
Oh, yeah. That was fun.
yeah.
Just that precise timing. Maybe that's a time where maybe having the wireless controllers wouldn't be as good. I don't know. And just play on a CRT or something just to minimize any type of input delay.
Yeah.
I don't know, because you have to be so precise on those ones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they got easier as time went on.
100%. You definitely know it was a game meant to be played kind of more on like a joystick in like an arcade with those kind of games.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one of my favorites that I had to tackle, we were getting into this here, was Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
I have actually never played it before, I think.
Oh my God.
But man, that game, I've seen a lot of gameplay for it before, but that game is fun.
It is so fun.
Yeah. That one was a really good example of like bringing stuff up. All the sounds and stuff were really good. My only issue with it was the level screens were really jarring.
When like the text comes down and just bounces all over the place, you mean?
Yeah. That's the only time like the audio kind of messed up too, you know.
And even that, Sean, I wouldn't even say that was the audio like from the console by any means. That was just how the game was presented. Yeah.
They just, that's what they had.
Yeah, exactly. But you could tell, like, it was definitely like Mortal. I mentioned this a few times, and he kind of laughed. But it was Mortal Kombat. It was also Zombies Ate My Neighbors. There were times where I'm like, I could tell they just wanted the bass to thump, and they got nothing.
Yeah, it was just like,
It was nothing.
It was just flat. It was really flat.
Just flatlined.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that was a real good one, and like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, the animations and everything looked great on that. That was definitely one of the more like cartoony type Genesis games that I just loved.
And the animations all aged very well. I mean,
They did.
And another cool part was it really got us into it. Like we played for a really long time on that one.
Yeah.
So
It was tough near the end.
It was rough,
but,
yeah.
Oh man, that was
finding
still
those
good.
people.
Yeah, God, indeed.
Oh my jeez.
Yeah. Now, Sean, you don't like Echo the Dolphin.
I don't
do
know
you?
why. It's a weird
Yeah, why
game.
don't you like Echo the
I
Dolphin?
don't
I didn't
know.
get this answer from you.
I don't know.
Because I wanted to play Echo the Dolphin. Sean just busts out laughing. He's like, no.
I think it's dumb. But I think it's because I think of like the like 2000 Shamu games, and that's what I imagine.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
You never seen those on like the Game Boy Advance and stuff like
No.
that? It's like SeaWorld games.
I missed those ones. No, I just know like the Echo that came out on PS2. But
I don't know, man. It's just a weird game concept to me. Just playing a
is.
dolphin.
it is. I mean, I believe because I read the Console Wars book, and I think that it was. I told you about this, but from what I can recall, Sega executives had this idea for Echo the Dolphin when they were really high.
Hey, that 100% translated to what we played of that game.
Yeah.
Because what you're playing of it, it looks pretty. It's nice. You're a dolphin swimming around. You screech like a banshee. And you can spam it. But
That was funny.
if you just take a close look at that background, just it's insane. It looks kind of like a bunch of dead dolphin souls trying to escape the depths of the ocean. That is what I think it looks like. You know, everybody can interpret it themselves, but that's what it looks like to me. It's really messed up.
But you can't deny that it looked real damn nice.
It looked nice.
Yeah.
And it sounded nice.
It was the most beautiful 16-bit nightmare that you could imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. And the motions of the dolphin, they were great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even when you sped through it kind of like a Sonic game, I'm surprised on how well you know, it went.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Kinda.
God.
Yeah. Now, Earthworm Jim 3D, I was getting into not 3D, excuse me, Earthworm Jim, because that was 3D was on the N64, but this is the first Earthworm Jim. I was getting into that, and that was the 3D effects on there still hold up in their
They
just
were
like mid 90s vibe, and they still just pop out at you when
Yeah,
you're playing
they were
this.
really good for like you know, getting upgraded by the system. Like they looked fantastic. So I mean, everything in that game looked really good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think that one of the last ones I wanted to talk about here was Sonic. Now, I did play the first Sonic, and I played the Master System version.
I mean, we have to, right? It's a Sega console.
It was not good.
It's not.
No. It was not, I mean, I was impressed that was coming out of 8-bit, but oh man, no.
Danny was playing this one, and once it loaded up and I looked up, the only thing I could say was there's just blue. There's so much blue.
It was like not even like cool blue. It was like baby blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was just, I don't even know. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's just so blue.
I did also want to take this opportunity to show you all how this actually works as well too, because this is the Sega Master System adapter, and this comes with the system. So out of the system, I said you can do the Mega Drive, the Genesis, the Sega CD, and then with the Sega Master System, you have to hook it up into this adapter right here. So you got your cartridge in, and then you end up slotting this right into the system, and that's about it. So you have your 3 systems in one.
It looks great too.
Yeah, so that's about a rundown of all the games that we'd really played on it and such, or most of them at least.
Most of them.
Yeah, most of them, because I know there's several that we kind of left out on it as well too. I do have to say, like, my final thoughts kind of here just on the system itself. I would like to have 32X compatibility. That is one thing, unfortunately. I cannot play my horrible port of Doom 32X on here. But here's the thing. It's also not a deal breaker for me. I don't own that many 32X games. Most 32X games are not that good. That's just the reality of it. And you know what? Here's the deal. If I can have perfect compatibility with Genesis, Master System, and Sega CD, and sacrifice the very small, minuscule library of subpar 32X games in the process, I certainly don't mind that.
Like, I 100% agree with that. Like, that, it's amazing. Like, if I never saw it or anything like that, it feels like an upgraded Genesis.
Yeah. Again, it's like a Genesis that came out in 2019.
Yeah.
It makes me happy.
And it's great.
And I want to see what Sega is doing for theirs. They are actually releasing a actual Genesis mini console.
Really?
Yeah, and I want to see how well that's going to be, because apparently they brought development for that in-house, and it's by M2, they're really good at bringing all those old Sega games back to life and porting them to modern platforms.
Man, I really hope like it kind of breathes life into it then.
Yeah.
That'd be super cool.
Yeah. Now, granted, if you're somebody who's gunning after, something affordable such as that, like the Sega Genesis Classic, I believe it's going to be 40 games for $80. So
That's
$2 a game. They're all built in. That works out pretty well. And that's emulation. Again, emulation for this is fine. But when it comes down to, having the original hardware and all that, even though this is not original hardware.
Nope.
In my opinion, this is the best way to play the Sega Genesis if you want native hardware without any sort of emulation on it.
I mean, I don't know too much about that stuff, but I mean, I 100% agree. It felt like home. It felt like, I was back as a kid sitting in my room and playing it.
You've played like bad Genesis emulation, right?
Yes, I have. I've tried so many times. I played many a bad Genesis emulation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's even the other thing as well, too. Like, if you're wanting to, when it comes down to the jailbreak as well, if you're one that cross between, and I think that's the only other thing I kind of mention on there, because I myself, I'm going to cover some stuff on that. But if you're one that cross between, you're thinking, hey, I'll get one of these and I'll jailbreak it and I'll just, load all my games off the SD card. That works out as well, too. Again, the only issue I really ran into was with Virtual Racing, where I could not get the ROM to load. And it might even be an issue with my ROM.
Yeah.
It could be that.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah. This worked fine. I'm still more going to blame it on the fact that I did not physically have the chips that were required for this, so it just didn't boot up on there. That's the only issue I was running into. But if you're one of those people who you're thinking, like, you're kind of on the fence and thinking of getting your Genesis with all new stuff, all new hardware, you're thinking of doing a few mods to it to bring out more sound, increase the picture clarity, you're also wanting to get a flash cart to just dump all your ROMs onto a micro SD card, with that, you could get one of these here, and this would be a little bit more expensive.
Not too much, right?
I mean, when it comes down to it, like, I'm thinking, like, let's say you pick up a Genesis for like $30, and then you get some of these controllers, or you get new controllers, and then you want to end up cleaning up's going to be fine, but then you want to get like a mega amp for sound. You might want to do some other modifications for the hardware, like for the video output, and then you're going to get the RGB SCART cables and get an upscaler. Assuming you're getting all that, I mean, you could actually easily surpass buying one of these. Yeah, but even if you have, let's say you have the upscaler and you need to get a Genesis and you want to perform the modifications to get it kind of on par or pretty close to what you'll get from the Analogue there, I would still actually recommend spending a little more on the Analogue, because then again, if you jailbreak it, you could just save the money on not having to get a flash card for your system.
Yeah, and that makes even more sense to me, yeah.
Yeah. So,
man.
Yeah, works out well enough for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The other stuff sounded way too complicated. That seems way easier to me of just, picking up and going with it.
Yeah, and if money's not really much of an issue to you, like if I'm just like, if someone comes up to me and they say, hey, I want to play on original hardware, I want to use my original cartridges, maybe do some ROM stuff on the side, but I just want to take my Genesis, hook it up to a TV, what's the best way of doing that? I would say this is absolutely the best way of doing it.
Yep.
Yeah. The SG. So, Sean, do you have any other thoughts on this thing?
I mean, I think you summarized it pretty good.
Oh, thank you.
We've kind of gone over a lot of stuff we've played. But, I mean, overall, yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think so, too. I've really enjoyed it. Now, one other thing. So, I mean, in the end, can you recommend it?
Yeah. Me?
Yeah.
I mean, if I wanted to go back and play, a bunch of my old Genesis, childhood games, I would buy this system. Like, I've thought about it plenty of times with, like, the other remake systems, like the NES and stuff. But once you told me that, hey, there's a really good Genesis system, I actually put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah. I believe it, yeah. If you ever want to borrow this, let me know.
I will. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think we're good on this. Those have been kind of our thoughts on this overall here. So let me know what you all thought of this as well, too. If you're thinking of picking one of these up, mind you, if you already have one, or if you are on the fence, or if you are picking one up or not picking one up, let us know.
Oh,
I'd be really interested in seeing your comments on it. Again, this wasn't going to be a super in-depth thing overall. I kind of just wanted to spitball here a bit with Sean, talk about the games that we had here, our experiences and all that. And I think that sums it up pretty well, where everything has been super positive on this.
Yeah. Like, I mean, everything pretty much. Like, there's, small things here and there that we kind of talked about.
I mean, I think the only things, if I could choose to improve a couple things on this system, it would be, again, 32X compatibility. I think that'd be nice. And one thing I did mention this because I didn't see this on the jailbreak, and it's not a stock feature of the system itself. You can't do save states on it.
Yeah.
So it does truly work. Like, you have a menu system and all that, but it does, at the end of the day, truly work like an actual console. Yeah. So you don't have those save states.
Yeah, which is, kind of neat for some people and kind of sucks for other people. Mm-hmm. But hey, it's still kind of cool.
Yeah, I can live without them just fine. But I was like, I was kind of hoping there'd be some.
Yeah.
But all good. So I think that would be a cool feature to have added in. Mm-hmm. And then if they ever want to make one of these little adapters for 32X, I would totally be on board for that.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, one other thing, I guess, before we wrap this up here, Sean, I ended up having all the success we had with this before we even reviewed it. I didn't just get this here. I ended up getting, which I haven't even really messed with yet.
Oh, goodness.
If I can pick it up. I also ended up getting the Super NT.
What?
Yeah.
That's super cool. Oh, my gosh. Neat. Oh, my goodness. It's made by the same people, too.
Yes, yes. The Super NT, what we just talked about here, is the Super Nintendo version of this.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah, I kind of wanted that as well, too.
Oh,
so
my
I
gosh.
got it, and I want to play around with it.
I'll have to check that out later.
Yes, yeah, I was going to ask, would you like to check it out at
yes,
one point?
100%.
All right, and to you all as well, too, if you're interested in hearing us talk about, I want to know what you all thought of this video, but also let us know if you're at all interested in seeing our take on the Super NT, because I'm definitely going to play around with that, but I'd like to see that as well, too, because that's another one. When I did the whole FrameMeister setup I told you all about, you get disappointing results from a Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, like my Super Nintendo Mini looks good, but that's only after you mod it and such. Not everyone wants to do that, so I think that'd be also another one would be pretty worthwhile to look into.
Oh yeah, just to kind of compare it around.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be super cool.
Oh yeah. Anyways, Sean, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, no problem, man. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone.
See ya.